Okay. Well, hello, friends. It's Shanika and Courtney with Get Checkered. And Get Checkered is part of the Alberta Podcast Network, locally grown and community supported. On today's episode, we're going to talk about everything tied to the Russian Grand Prix and kind of the fallout with everything that's going on overseas and Max's contract extension. But before that, Courtney and I are just going to catch up. Hey, how are you? How are things in?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing okay. How was your day? We chatted a little bit before we got started, but she's had a day.
Oh, I have had a day. It's been pretty busy. I had to get passport pictures this morning. So I put effort into my hair. I had rollers in all morning and then we stepped outside and it was drizzling rain and winds of 60 kilometers an hour. So I was like, oh, awesome. So started with that, and my passport picture is honestly traumatizing. So sad. I watched TikToks on how to slay your passport photo, and none of the tricks resonated because in the moment I froze and was like a deer in headlights. So, and then my sister and I had to go try on dresses for a wedding coming up.
Mhm.
And it's a crazy time because my sister's moving to the UK soon as well. So kind of getting stuff organized for her. And it's the one nice day. So it was rainy and windy, but towards this middle of the day, the sun came out and it's the first time it's over 0 degrees in Ontario. So I think everybody went outside and the roads were stupid busy.
You mentioned that you're going to be traveling in August, right? What does that look like? Where are you going?
Yeah, so I'm hoping to go to the UK in August. My sister's moving in at the end of June. So I'm kind of like, the bedroom, please. So now so I'm hoping to go to Europe in May, actually, when I graduate as a
Mhm.
grad trip. And it was kind of our plans were up in the air because we didn't want to spend so much extra money on COVID
Yeah.
tests because they can be add up, especially if you don't get your results in time. The airport ones are double the price. So hopefully that pans out. And then in August, I'm hoping to go to the UK to stay with my sister and kind of hit up all the F1 hotspots. I told her I was gonna take a day trip to Woking and try and weasel myself into McLaren
Bill.
technology. I was like, I'm confident I could walk in there and at least get an interview for something. And she was like, oh my God. I'm like, you have to be confident in yourself.
No, I completely agree. And also, what's the worst thing that happens is someone says no. And that's
Exactly.
truly, it's not the worst thing. That's okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
You know
I'm
what I
like,
mean?
okay, keep it for my resume on the next job posting. See you
Yeah.
soon.
Exactly. See,
Yeah,
people, you just got to try stuff. Oh,
exactly. How was your day?
yeah, I'm definitely tired. So for those who don't know, Jason Kenney, our premier here in Alberta, basically said COVID's over, and lifted all the restrictions in the province. So yeah, it was my first time kind of going out, and I grabbed cocktails with a few friends, a place called Dark Arts here in Calgary. If anyone hasn't been yet, I highly recommend it. It's really great cocktails, but it's also a gallery. So there's a lot of art on the walls. You can walk around with your cocktail, and now you can do that because obviously the restrictions are different, and look at art while you're, yeah. Anyways, so it's super great. And then we went to this place called Please Don't Tell, which was great because they play music that I actually enjoy. Something that's so bad for Calgary is just everything is always just really bad in terms of it's bad. Okay. You'll go to a bar and they'll remix. The example that the girls had the night before was, I think it was some rapper, some great song that everyone loved, and they remixed it with Dolly Parton. This is the stuff that we deal with here in Alberta.
Ooh, everything's turned country in out west.
It's so country, which is so annoying. But
Yeah.
Please Don't Tell, they played 50 Cent all night, Lil Wayne. So it was just really, really fun. But I got home pretty late. And I don't know, I've just had a wild week. It's been a lot of socializing and a lot of just like staying up late or, even during a work week, you know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
feel like I'm not caught up on sleep at all. And I'm looking forward to sleeping tonight, going to bed early.
So with like all the mandates being lifted, my sister and I were actually talking about this today because we were at a mall. Is
Yeah.
your mask mandate lifted then?
Yeah, our mask mandates lifted, but I don't know. Like, I feel like people are just kind of like, it's. I've seen a ton of people wearing them, and I still wear them too, kind of depending on the situation. Because I feel like at Costco, for example. But the thing is, what I haven't figured out is like private businesses. Like
Mm,
Costco, I was there and everyone's wearing a mask. I think there was one person that wasn't masked. And I'm like, is it just a company mandate? But I went to like obviously all the places I went to, the servers weren't even masked, which I thought was also like interesting because the majority of places I've been to over the last couple of days with restrictions lifting,
mhm.
everyone's masked. Like I was at a conference on Tuesday and everyone that was serving us or like was working in the building were masked.
Yeah.
And then all the we all, the attendees or whatever, we all came in masked as well. So I think that was there. And then we had an event at my place of employment, my job. And yeah, no one was masked. So it's just kind of like, it's really all over the place. It's really hard to tell.
Yeah, like so we were at the mall today and it was so busy because I think our mask mandate in Ontario lifts towards the end of the month.
Yeah.
We were like, if I don't have to wear a mask, like that's great, but also like my skin will thank me for not wearing a mask. But
Yeah.
like also I'm like, but I still want to wear one because you don't know, especially with that Ottawa convoy, like a lot of people from Toronto and surrounding areas drove to Ottawa. So I'm like, a good majority of you probably aren't
Yeah.
vaccinated. So so my sister and I today we were like, it's gonna be so weird. So
Hmm.
she works in healthcare. So she's like, I'll most likely still have to wear a mask when I'm at work.
Yeah.
Um, but like I feel like you're gonna get dirty looks either way. Like in a mall or something, like it's either like, oh, you're still wearing a mask, you're all like meh, 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 or you
Yeah.
don't wear a mask and it's kind of like, oh, now I'm a freedom convoy person.
Person.
Yeah.
That's so true. And my brother and I, we ran to a place called Ski Cellar here, and it was I think the day that they lifted the mask mandates or something. And we both had our masks with us and we walked in, but it's just like it's weird, right? Because the people working there were wearing masks, so we put ours on right away because I was
Mhm.
like, if they're, and she said thank you and stuff like that, but I was just like, if they're masked, like then we should too. I don't know. It's just like such a weird thing to try and navigate. And I don't know what it's like in your neck of the woods, but we still have, sorry, I know it's not funny. Like it's really tragic, but every weekend there's like people protesting for their freedom in downtown Calgary. And I just like don't know what for anymore because like there's no, you don't have to show your QR code to get into a building. There's nothing like you don't have to wear a mask.
Yeah.
What, like I don't know what
What are you fighting for?
at this point are you like, I just don't understand what's happening. And they're like, I don't know.
Yeah. So in Ontario, it's like most, like we don't have the QR codes anymore. You don't have
Yeah.
to show your vaccine passport, but in like private, like restaurants and some gyms and some places, it's up to the owner's discretion if you want to
Okay.
like implement it or not. So the thing that we've seen in like our area is a lot of restaurants are still requiring your vaccine passport,
That's smart.
right? But
I'm
all
open
these
longer.
anti-vaxxers are like, the government's saying it's open, like you're being stuck up and like causing all these scenes. And we're like, oh my God, like get a brain cell. So, so it's like wishy-washy. But yeah, some of them are, it's up to the owner's discretion on whether or not to implement it or not.
And it's so hard because I think for people because it's just so volatile. Like if you're in Calgary, for example, people are like, oh my gosh, let's like create a list of the places that have the mandates still in place so we can go shop there. But then it's like you're basically creating like a hit list for these anti-vaxxers to go to.
Yeah.
It's so I think it really puts business owners in such a tough spot because you're kind of like damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's interesting, folks. I'm I'm curious though for everyone else that's listening. I looked at our stats the other day and we're pretty much like majority of listeners are from the States. Hello, friends.
Oh.
Yeah, which is kind of wild. It's been interesting to see the shift over the last like since we started to where we are today. But I'm curious to know just in your backyard, how are things, and let us know maybe on Twitter or in our DMs or something about how are you feeling now that apparently COVID is over, according to all the government powers that be? uh, and maybe like what you're looking forward to. I'm according with you talking about traveling. I'm like, that's the one thing. I still think I'm going to stay masked though on planes like till the end of time because it's disgusting. Planes are so
Yeah.
gross.
I know. And so my sister's like flying to the UK soon. And I said, if the mask mandate's gone, like, what are you going to do? And she was like, honestly, I don't know, because we like both have very sensitive skin, and like
Yeah.
wearing a mask, obviously, like masking is a real thing. Even being on a plane, just the dry air, I always
Yeah.
break out. And she was like, my skin will literally fall off. Like it's going to be so bad. But you're in this like compact, like nasty, circulating the same air for 7 hours. She's like, I think I'm going to wear it, but like put like a La Roche-Posay clay mask on under my
Underneath.
skin to like purify my pores. And I was like, yeah, it's just like planes are actually nasty when you think about it.
They're so gross. And the fact that like what drives me insane, even for like public transportation, how they're like, okay, yeah, because of COVID, we really started cleaning things or like doing deeper cleans on the stuff. I'm like, you weren't cleaning them before? Like, what
Oh,
do you
yeah,
mean?
definitely not. The TTC is probably the grossest form of transportation ever. Oh, I can't even think about it. It's so bad. So,
Yeah. Anyways, I would love to know, what trips are you going on? What are you excited for? Also, what are you nervous about? I think that there's like, for me, I went to a conference with 400 people and no, sorry, the first event that we did for work, there was like 100 people and I had a really hard time, just with like the amount of people and I just hadn't seen that many and it was like a deer in the headlights. So, but yeah,
me, my passport picture.
seriously, because it's like, oh my gosh, like this is a lot. And I'm very extroverted, but I've needed time to like go home and sit in a dark corner because I'm like, this is a lot of people. Like I can't deal with this many
Yeah,
people.
so much interaction. And I feel like things just snapped back kind of
Mhm.
like almost to normal.
Yeah.
Like I work at a gym and we went from like 14 people maximum in a class to now 28. And like overnight, I'm like, oh my God, there's so many
So
people in the
much.
room. And like
Yeah.
working out beside someone, like directly the treadmill beside you, I'm kind of like,
It's scary.
Yeah. I
It
was
can
like, this is
be,
so weird.
it's an adjustment. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. My gym, it's the same thing. Like I don't know. That's what makes me nervous though, Courtney, is because we had the QR codes before, right? So you saw certain people all the time and it was like fine and there was a lot of space. And now that they're over, like my gym is so much more full. And I'm like, are you people all unvaccinated?
I know.
And
And
that's such a scary thing to think about.
yeah, and so my gym, it's like a boutique gym.
Mhm.
So we only run classes, and we had a lot of our members um ask us like, so are you still implementing the vaccine passport? Because they were so used to feeling like safe and know that everyone's vaccinated. And then our owner was like, no, we're going to open it up. And we had some members like go on freeze or like terminate because they're just like, I get it business wise, but like
It's not for
I
them.
felt so comfortable and safe.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh, like we totally get it too, right?
That's the thing. It's like such a tough, weird thing to navigate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, folks, I don't know how this became like a large conversation on just like weird COVID policies, but it's where we're at in the world. Okay. Like,
Yeah. So continue to stay safe, even though it basically doesn't exist anymore.
yeah, according to our very conservative government, so doesn't exist anymore. But yeah, Courtney's spot on. Just stay safe, people, because the biggest concern obviously is like the little ones who can't get vaccinated, anyone that's compromised, and
Mhm.
none of us want long COVID. Like, I like eating food, I like being able to taste things. So, and we also don't know the long term effects. Like, people have COVID's only been around for like 2 years, so we don't know what this could look like in the future.
Yeah.
But we're going to switch gears a little bit after this ad break. We're going to talk about just the mess that is Formula One right now, Haas and everything. But yeah. So with Pod Power, our sponsors are making it possible for us to amplify voices of Albertans and Alberta podcasters. This episode, Edmonton Community Foundation is helping us give a Pod Power shout out to Your Forest. Your Forest is a podcast about the natural world. Hear stories about the environment, renewable resources, conservation, forestry, hunting, fishing, and more. This is a podcast for those who cannot live without the joys and wonders of all wild things. Find Your Forest wherever you get your podcasts or at yourforestpodcast.com. That's yourforestpodcast.com. All right. So the first headline, and it's like, it's kind of hard to be like the first headline because it was just all over everyone. So I just
Yeah.
picked the first one I found, which was Formula One terminates Russian Grand Prix contract. And this is from ESPN. But like I said, everyone was talking about it. And the direct quote in their statement was Formula One can confirm it has terminated its contract with the Russian Grand Prix promoter, meaning Russia will not have a race in the future. For those who don't know, Formula One's original deal to race in Russia happened in 2014 between Vladimir Putin, and
Hmm.
then CEO Bernie, our boy Bernie, also someone we don't really like that much on this podcast. Great. The contract was supposed to run until 2025, and likely, as we've seen kind of with the other countries, would have been extended. But I think what was interesting, and this was a bit of a fun fact, is that in 2014 and 2015, Vladimir Putin himself was the one that handed out trophies to those that hit the podium. So if you are listening to the audio version right now, you should see Courtney's face.
Yeah, unimpressed is.
Oh my God. What do you think? Like, how do you feel about all of this?
I think it's definitely the right decision. I know that I think there was a bit of like up in the air. Like at first, Formula One was like, we can't cancel like it's a contract.
Yeah.
But then a lot of the drivers started to protest. I think it started with Sebastian Vettel. And then all the drivers were kind of like, yeah, no,
No. Yeah.
which ultimately led to terminating the contract. The fact that Vlad is out there handing the trophies, like, I don't like, I hate that. And
Yeah.
I don't know why, because I feel like even in like other races, like the last race of the season, I forget, like United Emirates area.
Yeah.
It's completely passing my mind right now. But you see a lot of like the royalty handing out trophies and stuff like that. But I think just given his history, if I was a driver, I'd be like, no, someone else give it to me. Yeah. And there's a video, it's funny, I looked it up while I was at work the other day. I think Vladimir Putin gave someone a trophy and then Lewis was shaking the champagne and some of it sprayed on Vladimir Putin, and you just see his bodyguard, like Vladimir Putin's bodyguard, turn around and it's like, oh no, what just happened?
Formula One, baby.
Yeah. What do you think? Like,
I think
about
it's
all
like, okay, so this is the challenging part of, I think, navigating all of this, right?
yeah.
Vladimir Putin has sucked forever. Like, he has sucked since when did they strike the deal? 2014. He has sucked before then. And I think this is highlighted a lot in the conversation I had with Amelia on our last episode, which is just like this sport has really got to figure out where they stand on this stuff, because going into, the next couple decades of Formula One. And I think just people have different expectations, right? From brands, from companies, from the people that work at these companies. And I guess a common phrase is like, what's your ESG strategy, which is governance. Sorry, I'm doing it backwards. I don't know why I chose to do that. Environment, social issues, and governance.
Yeah.
And honestly, it comes up all the time with the startups that I advise. It comes up a lot of the time with even like the organization I work at and how we're navigating that in the future. The
Yeah.
conference I was at was about energy, and it had like the largest oil and gas companies, including actually Petronas. Petronas, yeah, the
Yeah.
CEO was there, so that was like kind of cool. I didn't get to talk to him about Formula One, even though he's
No.
like right behind me. But all of them are also talking about the same issues. So I think with Formula One, like this is going to be, I guess, the first domino of many
Yeah.
that comes, because how can you, totally touching on what you're saying, which is how can you race in Russia, but then go to some of the other countries and continue to race in places that there are deep problematic issues, like where people are essentially dying for very, similar reasons and similar human rights
Yeah.
issues. So it's kind of weird. I'm glad that they did it. I'm curious to know who's gonna, like, what place is gonna replace it. Do you have any ideas on like what it could be, or what would you like to see?
Oh my God. What would I like to see? I don't know. Bring another Canadian race.
Us Canadian girls being like, please, just for the love
Yeah.
of God, make it on
Come
our
back.
time zone, please.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, but I think kind of what you were touching on quickly, sorry to interrupt,
Yeah.
is like you said, this is probably like the domino effect. Like this is kind of showing real change. And I think it did start again with Sebastian Vettel and even Lewis Hamilton wearing like pride shirts in countries that it's still like you can still get punished
Yeah.
for.
Being who you are.
Yeah, exactly. And Saudi Arabia, when Sebastian held that like women's race, like you said, F1 needs to get there. I know it as like corporate social responsibility
Mm-hmm.
in order, and be like, we need to like figure out all these where our values are, what we align with,
Yeah.
which I get, like the We Race is one. They play that at the beginning of every race. Every driver is usually wearing a shirt. Get those in line and like reassess the values, the laws and stuff of where these races are being held, because like you said, a lot of brands kind of look towards that, and if they're not lining up, then like that's on Formula One.
Yeah. And I think that also just the consumer is changing. Like I really think
Yeah.
that looking at what millennials my age, but also like the Gen Z that's coming up, like we don't have the same opportunities as the generations before us. So there's a lot of questions of like, what do we want things to look like? And people are very clear that they want to put their money behind brands and companies that support their own values and are actually making the world a better place. So I think, yeah, this is going to be, I feel like, very ongoing. And now that they pulled the plug officially on this, we'll have to see what it means for these other races, because I do think with the drivers protesting before, it kind of fell on like deaf ears, right? They'd always be
Yeah.
like, well, we don't want to make the sport political. Well, this is like a political move. It's the right move, obviously, but it could be read that way. So, the sport's made a choice here, as has like pretty much the entire world. And now you kind of have to stand by it. So I just don't know what race is going to replace it. I don't know. I would like
Yeah.
to see something kind of in a hemisphere that makes it easy for us to wake up, or like for it to be at noon or something. Like I would be
Yeah.
game for that. That would make me
A
very happy.
brunch race.
Yeah.
Not like a 4 a.m.
Please, for the love of God, no more
Yeah.
of those. It's it's too early. But we'll see. I haven't seen Formula One update anywhere if they're going to have,
Yeah.
where they're going to add the additional race or where it's going to be. And we also know that they're not the best of like, I don't know how to describe this, but whenever they like announce, this is where we're going to be going for all the races for the year, it doesn't make any sense in terms of like where they're traveling. They just like fly back and forth continuously all the time. So we can't even be like, okay, if they're not doing Russia, they'll go somewhere close, because, and the reality of it is they might not do that at all. No.
I know they're like, there's no like thought towards the drivers and their jet lag. They're like, oh yeah, so you're gonna be in Japan and then you're gonna fly to Canada. Have
Yeah.
fun. And they're like completely different time zones.
And I could not survive that. I would get so sick. Like, I don't know what these people are drinking or like
What
eating, but
supplements they have.
yeah, because I would be so sick from flying around like that all the
Yeah.
time. But anyways,
On their
the
private jets, maybe the air is a bit cleaner.
oh yeah, you're right. Maybe they're not using recycled air because they're all taking private jets.
Yeah. They all have like Dyson air purifiers, I bet. Just oh
And
my
they
God.
probably have what is it? They also have like nutritionists and all these people that can like give them every little thing that they need so that they don't get
A
sick,
little
I
tickle in
suppose.
their throat.
Yeah, as soon as there's like a little tickle in their throat, there's someone that's like can fix it,
Yeah. They're
immediately.
taking a ginger turmeric shot in 3 seconds.
That's like freshly made on the private jet. That's what we've come to the conclusion of. The other headline was kind of tied to this. So again from ESPN, but this was all over the place, which is Haas terminates contracts with Russian Formula One driver Nikita Mazepin and the title sponsor, okay, Ural Kelly. Sure.
That's how I say it.
Great.
Ural
Kelly.
Kelly. I don't
Yeah,
know.
not sure. But yes, I said Mazepin's full name. This is wild. 2 episodes in a row that we're actually discussing him as a human being. And
Unfortunately.
unfortunately, exactly. So the statement from Haas read, Haas F1 team has elected to terminate with immediate effect the title partnership of Ural Kali and the driver contract of Nikita Mazepin. As with the rest of the Formula One community, the team is shocked and saddened by the invasion of Ukraine and wishes for a swift and peaceful end to the conflict. Mazepin posted on Instagram, actually, and he said, I am very disappointed to hear that my F1 contract has been terminated. While I understand the difficulties, the ruling from FIA plus my ongoing willingness to accept the conditions proposed in order to continue were completely ignored, and no process was followed in this unilateral step. To those who've tried to understand, my eternal thanks. I've treasured my time in F1 and genuinely hope we can all be together in better times. I will have more to say in the coming days. What do you think?
I mean, I just hate him so much.
Oh my God,
I'm like,
same, same.
I don't know, like completely ignored. I'm like, what were you like? What I want to know what his points were because on some level, I can understand how it kind of sucks just because it's kind of like you're, it's like just like by association. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure his dad's like good friends with Vladimir Putin. Like I saw a picture and they're like hanging out. So
Yeah,
I'm
we'll
kind of
talk
like,
about that.
if if he Nikita had like completely different values and everything from like his dad, and he was like, no, I don't agree with anything that's going on, blah 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 blah. It would kind of, it sucks in that sense that it's kind of like through association and through your family you are losing your job in one of the obvious, I'm going to say like the most competitive sport.
Mm-hmm.
There's only 20 people, so I can see on like that level how it can suck, but I'm also kind of like, I feel like you're just a trash person in general, that
Yeah.
I can't see like your morals and values not being somewhat aligned with where you kind of were brought up, you know?
Yeah. And I actually feel like super similar to that because I'm like, when people were like, oh, like this sucks for him, I'm like, he didn't deserve the seat in the beginning. Like, it sucks that it
Yeah.
took an invasion of a country for him not to get the seat when he literally assaulted a girl and was still given the seat. So I
Yeah.
think that's again, we comes back to that conversation of like morals, values, like what matters here, what doesn't.
Mhm.
But I will say, I think it's tough for let's remove this from Nikita for a second. for Russian athletes, they've been asked, I feel like recently, like a lot of stuff, but what people don't know is um, you don't know if these athletes have their family in Russia, and Russia is like a fully an authoritarian state, like fully fascist, fully like
Yeah.
horrendous.
Yep.
So even if these athletes say something, their safety could be at risk,
Their
their family
family.
safety could be risk. Like there's so many other things. So I can understand why some of these athletes aren't really saying much.
Much.
And for the ones that are, oh my gosh, more power to you, because I totally understand just the risk that you're bringing to your family. But I think yeah, I don't know. I just like don't feel that bad about this, to be honest. I'm like, great,
Yeah,
good.
I'm like, who's next? Who's gonna
Yeah.
take?
So to touch on something that you mentioned, I dove a little bit deeper into Mazepin's father, and he has a 20% stake in Ural Kali and is on the board of directors. And for those who don't know, when Russia invaded Ukraine, Haas had initially removed all the branding because all the branding is like heavily inspired by the Russian flag before they really made a decision on like what to do with Mazepin and the sponsorship from Ural Kali. And to actually point exactly what you said, which is like them being homies, Putin recently, like as in within the last 10 days, had a meeting with Russian billionaires to talk about like what's going on. And Mazepin's dad is like clearly in the photo. And then even before the a couple days before the invasion, on the Kremlin's official Twitter account, there's a photo of like Mazepin meeting with Putin, and that's like just days before what happened to Ukraine, or what is happening to Ukraine and Ukrainians right now. So yeah, it feels weird. Like I'm totally with you where it's like he can't even isolate himself from his dad because his dad is so caught up in this. You can't just be like, okay, allegedly. Should we say allegedly? Are we going to get sued? I don't know. Should we say allegedly?
Allegedly.
Allegedly. But it's just like that relationship, it's in
Every.
photos.
Yeah.
So what can you do? There's no way for you to kind of disassociate yourself. And especially with all these countries now freezing assets from all of these Russian oligarchs and billionaires, like his dad is one of those people. Like what I don't know what you do. We all
Yeah.
know that being a billionaire is not ethical at all. So
Yeah. I feel like Haas is kind of like, oh, thank God. Cause I feel like after that Instagram story,
yeah.
questionable groping, I remember seeing Haas being like, we as a company
Yeah.
do not stand with Nikita Mazepin and these actions are blah, 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 blah. So I feel like they were always trying to find a way out. But it's like, oh, but his dad's basically funding the team at that point. And now they're kind of like, this was our saving grace. Like, you're done.
You're done. You're done. You're out of here.
So yeah, so I guess like the next question going into him being gone is who's going to take his seat this
Which
year.
I have no idea.
I
I have
know.
no idea. So there are some options, and these are ones that I just wrote down from like what I was thinking about. I guess I was like, how do we feel about Nico Hulkenberg coming back into play? Thoughts? What do we
I
think?
Yeah, is he the reserve driver for Aston Martin?
He is a reserve driver for Aston Martin. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be like I just loved him so much in like Drive to Survive. And I feel like he just needs one more chance. Right? Like I don't know. It would be nice to see him back. I mean, the cars, I don't think he'll get his like redemption day in a Haas, but it would be nice to see him hit the roads again.
Yeah, that's my thought too, because I think we're all secretly like Nico Hulkenberg fans where we just want him to at least, because has he won a race? He hasn't, right?
I don't know if he's won. Nico Hulkenberg
I feel like
win.
he's win.
Win? 0 wins.
Yeah, so he hasn't even won a race, y'all, and he won't do it in the
No.
Haas car. But I think we all want to see him win at some point. So I don't know. I have some hope for him. The other option that I thought about is Oscar Piastri. obviously stellar career out of F2, is the reserve driver for Alpine, I believe, right?
Yep.
Yeah. What do we think? Do you think that's even an option?
Honestly, I hope so, because I've read so many kind of like Twitter threads and different like F2 articles being like, this kid deserves a seat in F1. Like, he's proven his abilities in F2 and overall seems like a good kid. And I mean, it'd be nice for another Danny Rick to have another Australian on the grid. But yeah, I think it's hard because I like seeing like the comeback of drivers like Nico Hulkenberg, but it's also so cool to see the come up of kind of like the next generation
Yeah.
of drivers. And it's so crazy. My sister and I today, so my sister's born in 94. And I was like, oh my God, Carlos Sainz is a 94. Like, I thought he was a 92 or something. And I'm like, he's pretty young.
Yeah,
But
he's
then
a
you look
brand.
at like, yeah, like Lando's a 99. And I'm like, you're a baby. So it's like, it's nice to see like the up and coming. It'd be good to see like where he fits in F1 and his potential and kind of like that. It's again, it's a Haas, but like a real Formula One car.
Yeah, and I think we know that the rookie seasons are always like shit, unless of course you are like a Max or Lewis in a league of your own, doing your own thing. So it might even be like nice to be in a shit car because like I guess the expectations would be so much lower, right? Like no
Yeah.
one's expecting you to like go and do great, especially in a Haas. So I
Yeah.
don't know. I'm kind of with you. Like we've been saying all through, I feel like the tail end of the last season of our podcast, just like he really deserves a seat. He doesn't have one just because money talks.
Yeah.
And also there's 20 seats, which doesn't help. And no one's really retiring. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff, but it just makes it kind of difficult. The other person I had listed was Antonio Giovinazzi. And I think that may be a little bit closer to like maybe working.
Possibly.
Yeah, because we know that he is the reserve driver, right, for Alfa Romeo.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah. I was like, yeah. Uh, but he also, I think there's like a lot of interesting contracts between like Ferrari, Haas, Alfa Romeo. Like there's a lot of weird back end kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I feel like he might be easier to acquire just because of how these teams are connected through contracts and things like that.
Mhm.
Um,
Plus his like overall history in F1, like he has experience. I mean, these are new cars, but he
yeah,
has the experience in the Formula One atmosphere.
exactly. So you don't have to, deal with the rookie
Yeah.
mess of it all. And I actually think that the piece that the Haas team like desperately needs, and I think what we see with all the other teams is like an actual leader. So
Mhm.
something I was thinking about, and I didn't write it down here, but like, do you think, I mean, obviously Roman Grosjean is out, like he's not going to come back to Formula One, but is there space for like Kevin Magnussen to come back and, kind of play that role of being that leader to try and move the needle in some direction on that team? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's like a great thought. I don't know why, but Drive to Survive, I just had like a sour taste in my mouth with Kevin Magnussen. So I'm kind of like, I'm good. I'm good without him. But yeah, definitely, especially with, I mean, Mick Schumacher has the name and obviously has the talent, or else he wouldn't be in Formula One. But I don't think it'd be nice to see a leader on that team because again, he only has one season, right?
Yeah.
Behind him. Um, and I feel like Antonio has even potential to kind of be that guy. He's still pretty young, but also has again experience and like a good attitude towards it. I don't know. It'd be I yes.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen, to be honest. And then the last person that kind of came up was Pedro Fitipaldi, who is actually their reserve driver right now and has been for I think a couple of seasons, since
Yep.
like at least 2020. I know that he was involved not involved. Nothing happened to him, but like meaning when, Roman Grosjean got hurt, he kind of like stepped in and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah, so I did some quick like notes on his background. So for those who don't know, he is the grandson of Emerson Fittipaldi, obviously the Brazilian American. Sorry, no, he's Brazilian American, but his grandfather was Brazilian. I think he's won the Grand Prix, his grandfather, like twice, from what
I
I
think
remember, at least more than once. I just don't know if it's twice or three times. And Pedro has actually raced in, some of IndyCar, which we see a lot, right? F1 drivers going to IndyCar
yeah.
versus the other way around. And he made his debut in kind of the situation I mentioned. So he replaced Roman Grosjean for the 2020 Secure Grand Prix. He is 25 years old. Racing, just like, I don't know how we talk about this, but the nurture, right? Like he was born into a racing family. He's raced a ton. He has quite a few championship titles in like the junior series for Formula One. So like Formula Renault, a World Series, Formula V8, 3.5. I think that's the engine again. So there's like he's won some things too.
Mhm.
So I think he's actually like probably like what may happen, to be honest.
Yeah. And a
But
lot of people are freaking out about this because it'll be like Schumacher and Fittipaldi, like just a history. And I'm like, okay, we'll see.
and this
But
time they're at the same team. Like who knows?
yeah, but yeah, I think he did a couple laps in Barcelona for testing. So I
Let's
feel like that might be the choice.
But then
I
do you have to hire? So let's say he takes the role. Do you have to then hire another reserve driver?
see that's what I was thinking too.
Like what would you do? Like you need
But
a
I'm
backup
like,
driver.
yeah, who's Williams' backup driver?
That's
Because
a
I don't know if
question.
they like I feel like funding wise, reserve driver. Jack Aitken. Okay. Oh, he drove. Okay. Well, yeah. I don't know if you would need to have because what race was it? Was it the last race of the season where Mazepin got out and Schumacher just or something happened where Mazepin couldn't race and they only sent out one
Yeah.
Haas,
Yeah. You're right.
right? Like that happened. So I don't know.
Did Mazepin get COVID? I feel like he got COVID.
I think that was it.
Yeah,
I
he
think
got
that was it.
COVID.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you don't need one. And you're right. Actually, that's like the perfect segue to my next conversation point, which was all right, we know that Haas signed the deal with Kelly because of money. And this has been well documented with the memes of rich energy that refused to die that came from Drive to Survive, that this team is really, really struggling and to keep things kind of going. And in the article, um, the team, I think it was, I don't know if it was Steiner or like Gene Haas himself, who said, like, oh no, like there's a lot of options for money. Like, we're not worried about it. But we saw through Drive to Survive the team basically implode over like several years because of stuff tied to finances. Like obviously the car wasn't performing, but Haas
Mhm.
wasn't always where it is right now, folks. Like Haas was actually a very, very competitive team. And then with that, the issues with money comes like other tensions, because if the drivers are getting into accidents, like who's paying for that? And all that kind of stuff. So what do you think is going to happen, and also like what do you think should happen, because I am kind of at a loss for them right now.
Yeah, I agree. I think like in Drive to Survive, you saw Steiner kind of say, if we get Schumacher, like some money's gonna come in,
Yeah.
like throughout like his sponsorships even and just having that name. So I'm wondering if like there's any more kind of funding just because they have the Schumacher name tied to Haas right now. I I would definitely like to see them get like a big sponsor again, because yeah, they do have the potential to get back to where they were, which was like high midfield
Mm-hmm.
in Formula One. Um, I'm wondering like what Gene Haas's kind of stance is on this, because you kind of throughout the show see him slowly almost like deteriorate with his
Yikes.
face,
Yeah.
right?
He just
Um,
was not happy.
yeah, and yeah, it's funny that they say like, oh, there's tons of options, because I feel like a lot of season 2 was focused on Haas, and
Yeah.
how many times was Steiner on the phone being like, well, like we have to get the money, and then all the like private interviews being like, yeah, it's a money game, and if we don't get the sponsor, we don't know where we'll be at for next year, and blah 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 blah. So I think it's funny that now they're like, oh, there's tons of money.
Yeah, there's
Like,
tons of options. I'm like, where were the options before? Because I don't think there
yeah,
was any.
where? So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know like what do you think's gonna happen?
I think so kind of tying to what you were saying about Schumacher, if they do bring in Fittipaldi, like I'm sure that there's other sponsorship options that come with one of these drivers, like whoever they
Yeah.
may be. But I also think that we know Formula One itself is like $1 billion sport. We know the FIA has money. They should like talk to these team principals and be like, we need to, yes, we have the cost cap and stuff like that, but we need to find a way to give Haas more money. Can you all get on board basically and say
Mhm.
like, we're going to cut him a check or something? Because I don't know, it feels sad to potentially let this team who struggled for so long and has been waiting for the changes to come in to now be on the back foot again, where it's
Mhm.
like, oh my gosh, like even with this year, like I think the goal for them is just like a little bit of progress, right? It's like, can we just get a little bit of progress each time?
Yeah.
But to lose a sponsor like that large, I think it's a really big problem. I also think Andretti is still looking to purchase a Formula One team and he wants to be involved.
Yeah.
So we know that Gene Haas doesn't want to sell his team. It's like he said it numerous times to Drive to Survive. But hey, maybe things have changed, but he really doesn't want to sell his team. It is the only American team, right, on the grid. So um, I think that's an option though somewhere there. But we know that the Alfa Romeo Andretti deal fell apart because Alpha wanted to retain a lot of control,
Yeah.
and Andretti like actually wanted to have more of it. So I think we'll have to see what could happen there, because if Andretti's serious, then like, hey, here's a team that really needs some money. But other
Mhm.
than that, I really think the FIA and Formula One need to step in here and intervene to make sure like they
Thing.
have more money.
Yeah.
Cut them freaking checks here, please, and help this team a little
Yeah. Yeah. Because let's all just work together.
bit.
Let's do this like cordially and keep them on the grid, because it is nice to see. And Haas is definitely like an entry level team. Like that's
Yeah.
where you see kind of people get their first stints in F1. So if that goes, then it's kind of like, okay, then there's Williams, right? But yeah.
These legacy teams, man, we got to keep them somehow, and got to give them the talent and the money to pay for the talent to be as successful as they can be. So
Yeah.
hopefully Haas will announce a new sponsor before the start of the season.
Mhm.
Also, really hoping that we get to see this all on film, to be honest. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know. Did they confirm that they were going to do a fourth season of Drive to Survive?
Well, there was a video, like Lando posted a video somewhere on his social medias, and it was like behind the scenes of Drive to Survive season 4. And I was like, it's happening. So,
Yeah, I can't remember, but
I don't know
I'm
if it was
also
confirmed, but I
hoping
hope so.
that they like show everything that happens with this kind of stuff, because I also think it's like a good business lesson for folks on like how you would handle something like this. So I hope we get this behind the scenes, but
Yeah.
we'll let you know, folks, when we figure out more of what's happening with Haas. Because right now I don't think they know, and we don't know either.
Yeah, no one knows is the thing. Okay, so we will get into Max Verstappen and his extension with Red Bull right after a bit of an ad break. So ATB was built to help Alberta businesses from CEBA applications to lending information, debt consolidation loans, or deferrals. Whatever your business is facing right now, ATB is here to help with expert advice. In today's economy, top of mind in business, stay up to date with the future of podcast. Hosted by ATB's chief economist, Todd Hirsch. To learn more, visit atv.com.
Woohoo.
Okay, so the 2021 Formula One champion, world champion, Max Verstappen. So earlier this week, I guess, Max announced that he extended his contract with Red Bull until 2028. So that's from Planet F1. Max put out a statement saying, "I love this team, and last year was simply incredible. Our goal since we came together in 2016 was to win the championship, and we have done that. Now it's about keeping the number one on the car long term." So, I mean, good for them, I guess.
Oh, that's so
Oh,
funny.
yeah. So that is, I think that's one of like the longest extensions in F1. So cool. It's estimated that he's going to be making approximately like 33.3 to 41.7 million dollars, like 33.3 pounds a year,
Mhm.
which would make it like the most lucrative in F1 history. Lewis, the 7-time world champion, is said to earn a salary of about 40 million euros from Mercedes. And this is before any like endorsements are taken into account. So my question for you is,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on Max having one championship, earning approximately the same as Lewis with 7?
I mean, we say it all the time, right? Like Max and Lewis are in a different, like a league of their own. So I
Yeah,
think that you have to pay him at least the same salary as Lewis Hamilton. And when it comes to the salary, we should all say it's like all speculation. Like we
yeah,
don't know how much these drivers are actually making. It's just like a guesstimate from like, all of these journalists pulling information together. But yeah, you have to pay him. Like there's no way around it.
yeah.
Max, you know what you're worth, so go get what you're worth. I think it's funny though that in his
Get your
statement,
bag.
yeah, I think it's funny that he said we won the championship because they did, but they didn't win the constructors.
I know.
Um, so it's kind of like if I were him, I'd be like, yeah, I want to keep the one on my car, but I want to help this team like actually win the constructors as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I think it's like beyond crazy that he's making the same amount as Lewis with Lewis's background. Like I get it. Yeah, you won and like you are in that, you're the next Lewis Hamilton,
Yeah,
realistically. But I think it's so crazy. Like Lewis has been in the sport for how many years and has won so much, including like constructors and like
yeah.
driver champions. I was taken back. I read that article and I was like, imagine like Lewis is probably like speechless.
I truly think that Lewis just doesn't care. Like I think his head's down, like focused on what he's doing, but
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. Like they need to, I guess, like in this situation, Max has all the leverage. He has all the power to be like, I want to get paid this much. And Red Bull
Yeah.
has to like say yes, basically. Because if it's a no, then Max could easily go to another team. But again, I guess there's leverage there because there's only two teams that are as strong as, it's like Red Bull and Mercedes. So could he like do the thing that we always expect, which is like turn around, stab Red Bull in the back and go to Mercedes? I mean, I don't know. 2028 we'll find out.
Yeah.
But I think yeah, I totally get it. I just am still shell shocked by these numbers though. Just meaning like that is so much fucking money. That is so much money. Like what
Yeah.
do you do with that? And I understand their lives are at risk, all that kind of stuff, but it's still just like so much money. I can't.
Yeah. Like I can't even, I mean, I could imagine a lifestyle like that, but it's so far out of my reach. It's like insane what these guys are doing.
Yeah,
Insane. And
100%.
I mean, I guess that's why they all have private jets.
Exactly.
Um, I mean, Lewis, we would love to get your comments on this. So let us know. We can book you in. But I mean, so what do you think this means for Red Bull and its future? In terms of maybe like drivers like Pierre that are looking to get a seat next to Max.
Yeah, I don't know. So I guess this is basically them confirming that until at least 2028, everything they do will be to make sure Max wins, which we
Yeah.
know is a problem and what hurts them in the constructors actually, right? Because they build cars that are good for Max, but no one else.
Yeah.
And that's fine, if that's how they want to play things. But yeah, I think in terms of Pierre, like it's just like a giant question mark about his future and his career because he really wants that Red Bull seat. He reiterated that again. But do you want to go to a team that like truly does not care about anyone but Max? And they've like reaffirmed it now, right?
Yeah.
With tons of zeros. It's a big question. Like, I don't think even if he got into that, second seat, even if it's just like the two of them out front, like racing that, they're at the 1-2 or whatever, even if Pierre was in first, they would tell him to give up the position to Max.
Mhm.
Like, I just don't see any play in the future unless like Max gets, taken out of a race like DNFs, where the second driver would actually be allowed to win a race.
Yeah. No, I agree. And maybe like I would say they might let it slide if it was like your home race. Like we saw Checo like had a pot, like they could have let him win at the home race, like just so you have that. And that's the one and only time I could see it happen.
Yeah.
But even then they'd be like, mm, but or like, I don't know. Yeah, like Max is their number one. And it's funny when you hear Christian Horner say, like, especially with when the like Daniels contract and everything. Because at that point, again, there was like one of the most lucrative contracts ever signed in Formula One history when Max first started. And then you hear Christian Horner say to Daniel's parents, like, there's never a favorite driver. Like, we care about both of them. It's equal playing field. And you're like, okay, then why did you sign this like 17-year-old with the like world's craziest F1 contract? Like,
Yeah.
So I just, in terms of Pierre, he needs to assess himself and his talent and take them elsewhere.
Yeah. We have been the big proponents on this podcast for Pierre. You need to like let go of whatever they're feeding you there at like this Red Bull AlphaTauri situation, and you need to get into Mercedes.
Yeah.
Because I think what struck me like reading this article and obviously all the headlines is like Lewis will not be racing until 2028. And sure, George, I think will really step into that leadership role, seems very comfortable. But I think
Mm-hmm.
this is like a reminder a little bit to Mercedes that they need someone to take Lewis's place,
Yeah,
and
they need
sooner
him a
rather
little
than
bit.
later.
Yeah. Which, yeah, I think will ultimately be George will be the next Lewis, but then who's going to be the next number
Person.
two, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. And I'm hoping that Pierre just is, I hope it's Pierre. Like, I hope he gets it together, lets go of this Red Bull dream, and opens himself up to potentially taking on a Mercedes seat.
Yeah. And beating Red Bull.
That's the dream. That's the dream, folks.
Yeah, that's the like trajectory Pierre needs to get on.
Yeah. And but he has until I think it was like 2024, right?
I think so. Yeah. So that's the rundown on the last week or so in Formula One.
Yeah, just some reminders, folks. I think a lot of us are missing races, and I get it. But Drive to Survive season 3 kicks off on Friday. So on March 11th, I think they actually released the trailer late last week or sometime last week. So you can go check that out as well. But it's kind of crazy. So I highly suggest getting ready to binge that before we start off the season, which kicks off on March 20th in Bahrain.
Mhm.
So yeah, there's like content, I guess. Like there's ways to consume the sport coming up in the next little bit, versus all these headlines. And folks, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and what's the other one? TikTok, all at Get Checkered to see stuff from us. And we'll be back again next week, probably to talk about Drive to Survive. I don't know if we're going to be able to binge it all in one weekend. I know, Courtney, you said that you're going to try.
Yeah, that was my plan, but then I got invited to compete in like this public relations like student competition. It's a 24-hour event and it's March 11th at 1 p.m. to the 12th at 1 p.m.
Oh
And
my
I'm like,
gosh.
so I'm either up at midnight Thursday to binge or I'm up all day Saturday. So I'm gonna have to figure it out. But I will finish it in the weekend.
And also with that, you're going to have to get off all social if you're so you can avoid spoilers, even though we basically watched the season. But the thing is, the spoilers, of course, are like the background conversations that happen that none of us get to see until the
Yeah.
show. So yeah, I don't
So
know.
excited.
I'm going to try and clear my weekend as well, just to focus on this race.
Yeah.
Um, wait, is that right? I feel like that date's wrong. Hold on, folks. I
Is
okay,
it
no, that's right. That is a Friday.
Yeah.
My God,
Yeah.
I don't even know. Sorry, I'm just looking at the calendar because I realized I'm speaking at a conference on that Friday, and I have no idea what I'm gonna like. I have not created my presentation, so need to figure that out.
Sending you luck.
Yeah, exactly. Well, stay checkered, friends. Like I said, follow us on everything. Let us know what you're thinking, and we'll chat soon. Okay,
Okay. Bye.
bye, everybody.